Welcome to the Page by Page Book Club. I'm your host, Paige Imprint, and I bring you weekly book club meetings wherever you get your podcasts. Y'all, you saw the title of the episode, right? Oh my gosh, I could not be more excited to get to share this episode with you all. I had the incredible opportunity to talk to Victoria Wilder about a month ago now about all things Bourbon and Proof, the Bourbon Boys series, the Rig Family series, how she got into writing in the first place, maybe even what's coming next in the Victoriaverse, and she was just an absolute complete and utter delight. I could not have had a better time chatting with someone, and I could not be more grateful for her taking the time out of her day to join book club. I don't want to make this intro too long because I know y'all just want to hear from Victoria. So this episode is spoiler free, so if you are concerned about stumbling onto any information that you do not want to hear before Bourbon and Proof comes out, fear not, we do not spoil anything in this episode. Bourbon and Proof comes out on June 6th. If you're listening to this on release day, you have 2 more days. But if you're listening to it after June 6th, congratulations. You can download it right now. Without further ado, Victoria Wilder, welcome to Book Club. I'm so excited to have you.
Excited to be here.
It is release week for Bourbon and Proof. This story is unreal. I cannot wait to dive into it. We're going to dive in all things Victoriaverse today. But I'm really, really excited to talk about Ace and Hadley in particular because you're not ready. That's just point blank. Like, you think you're ready or not. It is that good. So, Victoria, what is your reader villain origin story and your author villain origin story?
I mean, the best part is they're kind of intertwined. I was never a big reader as a kid. And older version me is kind of like, but I was a choose your own adventure kid. I was a movie kid. I was a movie adult. I mean, I went to school I graduated with communications and a minor in graphic design, but my focus was television production. And I thought like movies, working in film and all that was going to be where I was at. That didn't happen. I ended up working in public relations, so different path. But to me, reading was never great. My mom and my sister would always say like, oh, the book was better. And be like, yeah, right. Until it sounds so, it's a cliche moment now, but COVID happened and I was pregnant with my son, my second kid. So I was like very much home and I hit the end of Netflix. I think I hit the wall of Netflix. And I was like, okay, what else am I going to do? I had a Kindle from forever ago. And I was like, all right, let's see. And then I found a book by Layla Hagen. She, writes really like light, great romance, and they're all interconnected series with brothers and sisters and not taboo, but like each sibling has a story. And, I fell down the rabbit hole, like hard, bought the t-shirt, kept reading, did chores with the Kindle in hand. Yeah. I mean, I go big. So I went real hard on romance and it just was so incredible to me when you find what you love to read and like not what you're supposed to read. And I kind of always felt like reading was like, okay, this is on Oprah's list, or this is like a Reese Witherspoon pick, or this is self-help that my friends are talking about. And I just never connected with them. And me discovering romance was about me just trying to find some form of entertainment that was palatable. And who knew? I love like open door, spicy romance with great leading men and powerful FMCs. And it's still like now, like I'll choose reading over watching something. I mean, sometimes I need a break, but that's usually the thing. So yeah, so a COVID reader. And then I started a Bookstagram account. I was like, how am I going to find more books that I love? Like my public library is great, but it was limited. And I didn't have a ton of friends that read. So social media, here I come, started a Bookstagram account, found a couple authors that I like drooled over, Elsie Silver, Nikki Castle, Abby Millsaps. And the beauty of that was you got to have like a very light touch point to authors. And, they were super gracious enough to have quick conversations with me about what it was like for them to start writing, and what that publishing journey looked like for them. And I always knew, and I think a part of me always knew that I wanted to write fiction. I always wrote some version of something. Like I wrote marketing and press releases. So writing was always like a part of my, repertoire, but it was not in the way that I write now. And I remember a friend of mine, he published a book about George Washington, and I remember like his publishing journey. And I remember just being like kind of annoyed at myself that I didn't do that, because I think that's what I wanted. Like, and it was never like this aspirational thing that I wanted to be, but I just was like, why? Like, I can do that. I can do this. So, some really great advice from a couple of those authors, great connection points to editors and what it takes to find a great cover designer. And I put a few deadlines in play, and lo and behold, I released a book. And then the wake-up call happens, or you're like, I've released a book. And that does not make you a working author. It makes you a person that wrote a book. And I really wanted to be a working author. I wanted to do this for like the long haul. I don't have plans for retirement. Like, this is my retirement plan, right? Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
The dream.
It is.
Yeah.
And, I just remember, like, you watch all of these movies growing up, especially like 80s and 90s movies where it's like, follow your dream. And I remember like watching like Center Stage and being like, I don't want to be a dancer, but I don't know what my dream is. Like, what do you go for if you don't know what it is? And like, here I am like knocking on 40's door a few years ago. And I'm just like, okay, wow, this is the dream. This is what that everyone's talking about. Who knew? So it's been a really like, I've romanticized the journey for sure. But, I think reading romance and really falling in love with it and learning a lot about it and what kind of different audiences there are within that genre have 100% brought me to where I am now. And I feel, like I'm forever learning. I'm like still a voracious reader when I can be. But man, do I love the author journey too.
That's incredible. What a cool story, too. What was your first piece of work?
Peaks of Color. Yeah. That's it. I mean, I had like a short story when I was like, in college maybe, but, never saw the light of day.
What an incredible debut, by the way. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a, let's see if I can do this book. I wouldn't change a single thing about it, even though there are many imperfections in where I look at it now, like what I would have done differently, but, get you to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. So. Absolutely.
So at that time, did you see the whole Riggs family world in your mind, or did it kind of grow? What is your process like of writing a series like that?
Yeah. So that series just grew. I knew by the time I hit the end of Peaks of Color, I knew that I wanted to write Giselle's story. It was just too good. She was just too good of a character. There's just something really poetic too about the best friend getting the story. I was always the best friend, so I really was like, she freaking needs a good one. And her and Henry's story, like even now, I just love that story. There's just something about that sort of second chance scenario. I poured a lot of my heart into that one, which is really funny because like when I released, so I did arcs and all that, your second book, you're like really excited. So like I had an arc reader. It was a new arc reader, I don't think they had read Peaks of Color, and man, they trashed it. Oof, they trashed it so hard. And I was like, it was in the dumps about it too. And it was like right before release. And I was like, oh, this super sucks because I really enjoyed this. And then it was just like, it's like such a little poetic lesson because like somebody that really, really hated that story, for others, it's their favorite. I've had like people like have tattooed phrases from that book on their body. And like, to me, that's just like such a good example of like what somebody considers like that's something that touches them to someone that considers something else that's just total, not for them. So yeah, that was a fun book to write. But yeah, the Riggs family rolled out. I mean, in the back of my mind, I knew if I was going to do a series, I had to like prep that in the first book. But I think the I think the way that people reacted to that first book just made it feel like, okay, well, I can keep doing this, you know? So yeah, I really enjoyed writing that series. I loved like the interwoven dad in that series, and I just had fun with that one. And yeah, now we're on, wrapping up the end of the second series, and
It's so wild. It's so wild. Like I read Riggs Family in a week. I read the whole thing on vacation because Torianne recommended it. And at the time, I didn't have a bookstagram. Like I was like, I just happened to follow Torianne, and she was like, "Read this series." I devoured it like in 1 week.
I love
It's just
that.
such a good one. What was the process like of transitioning from Colorado to Kentucky, from the Rigs to Fiasco? What's the bourbon research like? Were you a bourbon drinker before? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's parts of the business in that play too, because like when I wrote books 1 and 2, I was like, okay, if by book 3 in the Riggs family, if I can make enough money on that so that I can actually pay for this as a hobby, right? So like I'm not taking money out away from my family, I can actually fund this thing that I'm doing. I was able to do that by the time I hit book 3. Is it a part-time job? No, it's not even making money for a part-time job. So, by the time I was in my next series, I'm like, okay, if I want to keep doing this where it's sustainable, I would love for this to go really well. And I am super lucky that I have a very supportive partner. And he said, if you feel like you need research, go do research. So I was at dinner with my sister and my brother-in-law, and we were talking about podcasts, and my brother-in-law was telling me about Pappygate, which is, scandal in Kentucky about bourbon, and, the trials and tribulations of, bourbon on the black market and all this. And I was so intrigued, and I was like, there is not enough, like bourbon's sexy, like, name any mafia kingpin romance or, morally gray male main character, even like really feisty female characters, and they're like drinking a bourbon neat. And I just like was like, how do I like need to lean into this? Went to Kentucky with my best friend Pam, and we toured and sampled a lot of bourbon. I left there thinking bourbon just burns, to leaving and thinking I adore this. And I knew going down too, I knew if I was going to do a series about bourbon, there's a subculture just like there is in romance, right? And you want to do it justice. You want to not piss people off. You want to be able to know what you're talking about in a way that it feels authentic. So if these main characters run a bourbon distillery, they need to not call a whiskey thief the thingy that's copper, like that type of stuff, like things that expand beyond just a good Google search. And I got a lot of that from like really smart and just really passionate tour guides. And it's just a wild industry. Like so much of it is different in the Kentucky, Tennessee area, especially. They have like majors in colleges and universities that are based around bourbon. And, I'm in the Northeast, and that's just like a wild concept to me. Not that we don't have like, whiskey distilleries up here, but it's just different.
Yeah.
It's totally different beast.
In Nashville, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, so there was research had, and I was like, I felt so good writing Bourbon and Lies. I also had sort of said to myself, do this the way you want. Do this how you would want, not what you think a trend is, not what you think another author is doing that's working for them. Do it the way that you know how. And obviously the smart things, right? Pick good tropes, have great spice, like the basics, but also like fold parts of me into it. So, the storyline, the sub storyline of Romancing the Stone, that is my favorite movie of all time.
I love that.
There's like so many pieces of that movie woven into that story, and not exactly the same way, but and there's like little Easter eggs. I also adore A League of Their Own, and if you listen to some of the names that are woven in this story and in the series, really, you'll catch that too. So it just, there are parts of me and my favorite things and what I identify with, that are woven throughout, that are not so obvious and in your face. And that was just really important for this series for me. And I think it paid off.
Oh my gosh, yes. I tell people all the time, it's like you can have the same thing as everyone else, but the only thing unique you have to offer the world is you. Like everyone can have the same tools and same tropes and so on and so forth. And it's just like the only unique opportunity you have is to pour yourself into that. Okay, I'm going to pivot off of something you just said. I feel as though you're the queen of a wraparound and queen of an Easter egg, like you just said, specifically with those movie tie ins. So, out of curiosity, is there anything you wish more people would notice about the like wraparounds, Easter eggs, those kind of things people should pay attention to? And I feel as though I caught so many more in my reread of Bourbon and Lies because I was like going back in, knowing the end, coming back to the beginning. So, all that to say, what are your favorite Easter eggs? What should we pay attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I really love when people discover that those things on their own. Like I've had so many people like slide into my DMs and be like, "Are you a League of Their Own fan?" And I'm like, "How'd you guess?" Like, there's a place called Hooches, and Marla runs it. So yeah, I get. There's Jimmy Dugan Sr. that runs the hardware store. So like, there are things in there, that are a nod to. Um, Pivotal things for me. What to look out for? I don't know. I think it's a matter of like how much do you want to dive into a story, right? Like you can read my books and take it for what it is. You can read it and hopefully just enjoy the hell out of it. You also, if you wanted to go back in and reread, I do really try to like fold in some decent foreshadowing. There's,
Yes, you do.
symbolism in there too, and not in
Mm-hmm.
everything. I do not take this. I'm not pretentious about it. So there's definitely not that. It just sometimes just works. The symbolism with snakes in the first story and how that sort of ties in and why she was finding these things that Julep was leaving her on the front step. If you were paying attention, maybe you would, like there's those pieces. And each story is a little bit different. There's definitely little pieces, like more in some than in others. But yeah, I think it's just like I would love it if people just enjoyed the story. And if you're on the hunt for things that are a little like pique your curiosity, maybe you're not too far off. So yeah, I love doing those things.
They're so fun. Like my reread of Bourbon and Lies in particular, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. I feel like every chapter, I was like, wait a minute. Looping back, Samantha Brentmore. Looping back.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So do you plot those in? Do they come to you naturally? Do you plan on those things or do they just come?
They usually just come. I am not a heavy plotter. I am a very loose outliner and I write. I write and work as I go. I do very heavy editing. I do I do a couple of rounds of developmental edits with my editor where we're just talking story. I have an exceptional PA beta reader that is like pretty much also like a dev editor. So I have people in my corner that want to work through a story with me. So like I will never type the end on my first draft manuscript because in no way is that what ends up coming out. And like a lot of the things, like a lot of the components of the story are there, but they're just maybe not worked in well enough yet. And sometimes I'm like, ooh, you know what? This person, I don't think I want this person to be actually dead. And somehow I've like put that in my brain and it ends up working. Now, is this a sustainable lifestyle? I don't know. We're still working through that. I'm leaning into the fact that there is no perfect way to write a story. If the story ends up being fucking phenomenal, then do what you do. But for like my sanity, I am trying to adjust how I deliver things to my editor so that, the process is a little more, not I want to die like a couple weeks before things are due.
Yes, that is totally understandable. Speaking of that, how has your process changed? What is your advice to people? Like, is there anything you do that you love? Is there anything you wish you would have done differently? Any advice you could give anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, so I think I'll like take my own advice, and it's because this happens almost with every single book, and it is you can write. Tell yourself you can write and just keep writing. Because I definitely, imposter syndrome is a real thing. I've gotten to the point too where I've gotten like in my head so much I can't just write. And that's just, I'm not doing anybody any favors by doing that. And it's like really silly to look around and think you can't do something, but you can. Um, I think if it's any advice that I could give anybody, invest in the things that will impact your story. Because, like, at the end of the day, yes, the things that are important that are going to sell books are for sure marketing, a great cover, smart business decisions. But if you don't have a really good story, like if you need help getting it to that, if you need help getting to a great story, invest in those things first. So like I'm a huge, huge advocate for developmental edits. Um, and that's, for people that might not know, like developmental editing is really talking about plot line, story holes, character development, character arc. Your hero and your heroine need to go on some kind of journey. So like there are like core things, and they're usually uncomfortable and sometimes hard to hear. But if you put on the hat of this is something I need to be okay with it not being great right now so that it can be great. That would be my advice. I definitely have to put that hat on. Like I know when I'm ready for developmental edits, my feelings don't matter. Like they truly don't. They start to come into play more with like line and copy edits, right? Because you want to like maintain your prose and feel like you're not losing your voice at all. But for the core of the story, yeah, rip it apart. Let's put it back together in a way where it's going to feel so good.
I love that. And I feel like that is very evident in your stories, your willingness to do that,
Mhm.
because they are so intricate, so beautiful, and they just feel very well thought out. I feel like that results in a very clear, like, one thing I love about your books is the sense of setting. Like, and I have aphantasia. I can't visualize anything, but I feel at home in Fiasco, Kentucky. I feel at
Absolutely.
home in Strutt's Peak. It's the feeling that I get when I'm there, and I feel like that's very evident in your work.
Oh, I love that. Thank
Oh my gosh, of course. What does it look like to get into those worlds? Do you have a bourbon distillery in mind with Fiasco? Is it something entirely new? What is your inspiration process for your settings?
It's usually like pieces. It's never one particular place. And like there's definitely parts of Kentucky that I was in that I was like, ooh, I could see this. And like you have thoughts about. I write small town. That's
Hmm.
like trope, I suppose, but also like subgenre of romance, like a
Sure.
small town romance. And you just have these expectations of what a small town looks like and feels like
Hmm.
as a reader, maybe not in practice, but as a reader, like there are things that you
Yes.
expect from it. So I definitely take, setting in mind, but also just like the feeling and the
Hmm.
forever learning of how to show and not tell, which is just like a heavy conversation I have to have with myself every book. Okay, so it's like,
Yes.
what am I telling you versus what am I showing you? And it's a fun little exercise that hopefully pays off.
We visit Strutt's Peak from your first series in a chapter or two of Bourbon and Proof, and the setting is so clear. I was like, oh, and we're back. Like the feeling was so clear. Oh my gosh. Which I know that's not a question. I just have to say.
No, and it's like I love that. I love that you appreciate it because it's definitely like it. It. I think I was doing some brainstorming with my beta readers like way early on. Maybe it could have been my editor too. I don't remember. And I was like, "Ooh, wouldn't that be so fun if we went back?" Because I gave a little taste of Henry in Bourbon and Secrets because he flew the plane that brought the girls somewhere, and I was like, I kind of want to do a little more. And it's really just like aside from it, it just made sense for this story, but it's also just like a nice thank you nod to, the crew that's been with me for a while. And if you haven't, then you maybe want to explore a little more.
And you absolutely should explore a little
Yeah.
more because it's just phenomenal. So, switching from how much I love your settings, I want to talk about FMCs for a moment. I am on record consistently saying no one writes an FMC like you, and I mean that from the bottom of my soul.
Thank you.
They're so three-dimensional, I feel, and so strong. What are there pieces of you in that? What is your process of writing an FMC in particular? I mean, your men are incredible, but
Thank you. So well, I think that's like such a compliment. So thank you so much. I don't know. I mean, there are parts of me, I think, in every story, but not necessarily in every FMC. I don't know. I think I really love reading strong female characters. I really love reading romantasy. And in so many of those stories, it's a heroine's journey, not a hero's journey in my mind. And I I want to read a book where I see somebody growing, but somebody that I like also respect, right? Like if I can start a story and feel like I can connect with them in some way, right? I can see a part of myself in that person, maybe something they do or a way that they feel. I always love that. I feel like that grabs a reader. But then if you can end the story thinking, oh gosh, she is goals, then I feel like you've done something amazing. And like that's for me, that's the goal, right? Like if I can write an FMC where a reader connects to them in some way, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be like a vulnerable piece of them. It could just be something as simple as, yeah, I don't like wearing bras either, like something mundane. But you can leave the story and being like, oh my God, like I want to freaking hang out with them. I want to not just be them. I want to like be a part of their world. Then it's a win. So yeah, the goal is to never write a cringy FMC.
that you have not done, not once. Oh my gosh. Every single one of them. And moving into Bourbon and Proof, we've seen so much of Hadley in these past two books, and we've seen one side of her. And it's kind of the side that she shows the world. What was it like to show the peek behind the curtain in her POVs? Because she is so much more in the best way, and she was already incredible. What was it like to finally write her story?
Very intimidating. So it was very intimidating because, she's got these great one-liners, and I feel like I knew even from the first story, even from Bourbon and Lies, I knew that there was just more to her than what she was showing. And a lot of times I think people that have, like are really quick-witted and funny and snarky, there's always so much more underneath the surface. And they're probably also brilliant. Like the funniest people are a lot of times just like the smartest in the room as well. I just felt that way about her. And yeah, her story, the way that her story unfolds feels authentic to her. And I just leaned into it. I wasn't sure how I was going to go with the suspense line for Bourbon and Proof, but the way that it unfolded, it just felt really authentic to her story. And I tried other things. I tried at the beginning to see if I can, turn things around and make it more about Ace and his backstory. And while that definitely is a part of it, it's so much more about her. And she grows in this story, but I think she grows even more since like book one up until this story. And she goes through it. We know like by the end of Bourbon and Secrets, her dad is arrested for these like really horrific things. And I just thought to myself, God, what is she going through? Like what kind of like mental and emotional toll is that taking on somebody that has to like be, just the funny, like amazing one.
Yes, all the time. I I just loved her so much, and I'm so excited for everyone to meet her because, or she, you know her, but like truly get to know her. And Ace was her perfect match. in every way.
I thought so too. And he was like, I did not have plans like before writing Bourbon and Lies. Like was not like, let's make this snarky best friend in for the brother. They just kind of like had this exchange, and I was like, okay, this might work. Okay, this is cool. And then by the time I was done with it, I was like, I'm not ready to write their story, so we'll give them some time. And it worked out great because like if I had written their story second, the storyline would have been different. Like it just would have been different. So yeah, I think they've got really great on-page chemistry. And you could ask me how I did it. I don't know. They kind of did it themselves. Like I wrote it, but I just felt like it existed for them.
It did. And they've had chemistry since the beginning in many ways. Like, and just getting to experience it in a full book was unreal. And Ace's character is, again, much like Hadley, so much more than you would have ever imagined.
Yeah.
And I just love them together. And I also love the mutual pining.
Mutual. Totally. It's really funny. I was listening back to, so I was listening to the audiobook for Bourbon and Lies, and I didn't realize that I had even done this, that I had introduced Ace before I introduced Grant to the story. So I think a lot of people, when you're first reading it, you're thinking, oh, this is the MMC. This is going to be Lainey's guy. And it's not. Like, he's not the guy. So yeah, I think from like that first scene where he's like a little bit gruff and you're kind of like, ooh, who is this guy on the front porch in Kentucky? And he like runs this distillery. And then you get to find out a little bit more about his backstory, and kind of the lengths that he goes for the people he cares about. He's just so freaking swoony.
He is. And it's so much more than like even I could have guessed and expected and wanted.
Yeah.
And the morally gray.
Yeah. Yes. I knew that if any of the main characters were going to be morally gray, and like Lincoln definitely has, I mean, he like slit a man's throat, like, he's also like a single dad. So like talk about the lines. But I knew that Ace was going to be my dark horse. And yeah, he rides up on his dark horse and does a lot of morally gray things.
That he does. And what I liked about him was the duality of it all, where he's so strong, he's so manly, he's so daddy, but also like he is so gentle for her.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of a goner for her. And like some of the things he does are so questionable, right? So,
You find out just how obsessed he is with her quite early.
You do. You totally do.
Which is such a fun thing because I love each of their POVs separately, the mutual pining of it all. As the reader, you're like, hey, you're obsessed with each other, by the way.
Yeah, obsessed. Obsessed. To a point where you're just like, if this was real life, this is not healthy. But it's not.
But it's fiction. So I do have to say, Marriage of Convenience is one of my favorite tropes, and this is officially my new favorite Marriage of Convenience
Yay!
book. It is the best execution of this because it's the whole situation leading up to it. It's so different, but in the scenario of the story, when you're immersed, it's like this was the only way.
This was the only way for it to work for them. I knew that they needed to have like something to stick them together. Like it was inevitable. But I love playing with tropes, but I love playing with them in ways where they're not the same. Like there are some things that you can expect in a trope, and if you don't get it, you're like, what do you mean he didn't say my wife? And it is a Marriage of Convenience. But he does like a lot, so. Yeah, I was so the daddy kink in this, I just think it has like I think daddy kink, it depends on how you consume, how you maybe also practice yourself, like all of those things, like so it is true, I think, to their characters how that was done. But I definitely include it. I don't know that I included it in your version because there is an updated proofread read version now. But I definitely added as a trigger warning because maybe for some people it's not for them, but there's definitely daddy in this book. And it's light, like there's a very light dom sub touch point. But it's light. It's on the lighter side. Doesn't mean the spice is light. Just means the kink
No,
exploration is.
I think maybe other than a peak performance, I think they're right together as maybe your spiciest, in my opinion. I'm just one person. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I think this one is. I think this one is my spiciest. I think it gets pretty aggressive. It would. I think people would classify it as a slow burn because I don't think you get much till later. But I mean, you get little blips throughout. So but if you're along for the ride, I promise it's worth the payoff.
Well, that's what I was going to say is I was not feeling it was a slow burn because the tension kept once you were like higher, 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 or like a rubber band, like pulling, 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 pulling. And when it snapped,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, yeah, it snapped. It was so, so good. So going off of the marriage of convenience trope conversation, what is a trope you're dying to write, haven't written yet, or maybe want to return to?
Yeah. I don't, so I would love at some point to just try to touch upon all of them. I haven't written Single Mom yet, and I think that'll have a place soonish. I don't know when. But I really love Right Person, Wrong Time. I don't like, I mean, there's a little bit of that in Hide and Peak.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. There's just something about that. Like when the universe just doesn't work in their favor. It also just feels very real to me. And like, I remember being like a pining, teen and being like, it's just this person I have to love. They love me. I know it's just time. Never, that was not true, but, but for fiction, I just love that. I love it.
I love it too. And so I don't know if it's a trope or maybe just a plot device, is your use of witness protection in the witness protection program. Can you speak to that? What's your interest in that? How did that start?
I just think it's a really, like, what a compelling story, and something that you can't talk about, and something that's just intriguing. I really loved it. I loved the idea of somebody hiding out in a way that felt safe, but also at any point something's gonna, shit'll hit the fan. Um, and Witsec does that. It really worked. It worked in Hide and Peak, and I really enjoyed it. And then I just like loved the character B. Harper.
I was going to say, that was my next question.
Yeah, I think different people picture her differently. And I think she's evolved a little bit too. When I first wrote her, she was, she was like in her like late 40s, like, kind of like a La Femme Nikita vibe. And then as like she kind of evolved, I don't know what, maybe it's the name. She just had this like B. Arthur from Golden Girls vibe. Her clove cigarette and total take no shit attitude. And it just felt right to have her be the person to bring us to Fiasco in book one. She's got a bit of a backstory. It worked out really nicely. And yeah, she makes her way through each of the books in a different way. So it's not, the same, but in a different, unique way each time. So yeah, I love witness protection. I feel like it's a really cool way to play with, romantic suspense, especially.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite ways to recommend your books to. It's just being like, well, are you interested in witness protection?
Yeah. It's usually like tell me more.
Yes. Oh, it's like, and it's not very common. And I'm like, oh, I want more. I want more. I want more. I'm going to do a major pivot here, but I'm so glad you mentioned this. I am one to talk a lot about my husband and how grateful I am for his support. And you mentioned how grateful you are for your husband's support. Can you speak on, as an author, what it looks like to have a support system and what that means to you, how important it is?
Yeah, It's really interesting to have a person without me even really knowing this, because when I met my husband, I was working in PR. I was, doing marketing for tech companies. So it, like with everything, you marry somebody and you're not the same person throughout the whole relationship. And I haven't like, you don't like really I don't think I valued it until I was like, there are so many parts that aren't the same anymore. And we just, I'm lucky that he is the kind of person that wants to grow. He's, a feminist through and through, and, is like, how can I help with the kids so that you can get your writing done this weekend, or you have a deadline? Like, and, he's very aware, like, of what kind of mood I'm going to be in too when it's getting close to deadlines. So I think, I think having a partner that sees an end game even before I do, means the world. I just feel very lucky. I know there are a lot of writers, authors in this romance world that do not have that kind of support system. And the amount of respect that I have for them to continue to write without that is immeasurable, because I don't know that I could do this without his support. And like, he was the person that said, when I was like, I might try writing a book, and he was like, all right, well, let's do it. And I said, we'll try it. We'll try one, and then let's try two, and let's go again. And then when we hit Bourbon Boys, I was like, this needs to work, because I need to contribute to our household again. Like I came to our relationship, like, earning more than my partner. So to like be in a different spot financially, and like, that was like a very hard pill to swallow, and be, vulnerable in that way. And him being like, listen, you're fucking great at this. Like, let's keep doing it. It's great. It is really wonderful to have. Is everything sunshine and rainbows all the time? No. Like we're a normal, married couple, but it is a true support system, from my husband through the rest of my family. My youngest sister, Blair, is, comes and joins me at events and helps run tables. She'll also brainstorm with me if we're like really feeling it. And, my mom is the person that would be at the, kitchen counter reading Bodice Rippers when I was, a teen. And I'd be like, Mom, what the hell are you reading? And she's just, she'll be like, we were at my daughter's game tonight, and my sister's like reading my blurb for Bourbon and Proof. She's like, oh my God, it sounds so good. And my mom's like, when can I order the paperback? I'm like, not yet, Mom, it's coming, So it's just, I feel lucky. And my dad doesn't, my dad cracks the book open to read the dedication and cracks the back to make sure he's somewhere in the acknowledgments. And that is all. And I say, Charlie, don't go further. You don't need to read what's in between. So,
I love that. I say all the time, there'd be no Page and Print without Mr. Page and Print. Like in the moments I don't believe in myself, he'll come to me with research. He's like, he believes in me more than I believe in me. And it has made all the difference in the world. Speaking of just like support people on your team, can we talk about Whiskey Ginger Goods and just what that relationship has looked like? Because your covers are unreal. They are the most talented, incredible. My dream, I think, would be to be illustrated by her one day.
Right?
Like, I think that's my dream gift. Oh my gosh. How did you come into that relationship?
First of all, she's lovely. And you can't always like look out in that realm. So like, I feel very lucky there. I shot my shot. I saw some amazing artwork. I think it was on Etsy that I saw of hers, or maybe Instagram. No, it was Etsy. And I, hunted her down on Instagram, and I was like, okay, in my kitchen doing like a paste. I was like, what is the worst? She ignores you. Cool. She says, not interested. Even cooler. And, I said, I did a quick intro and was just like, are you ever interested in, doing a cover for a book? And she was like, well, it's not something I've done before, but it is on a bucket list. So we hopped on a call, tried to have like a vibe chat, and it was really great. And then, I described to her what my two main characters look like. And she's like, I'm a redhead, and my partner kind of looks like the person that you're describing as the male main character. So worst case scenario, I've just drawn me and my partner, and we can just call it a wash if you're not into it. So then she sends me this cover a few weeks later. I get it, and I'm like, I called my sister right away. I'm like, tell me this is amazing. Like, right, this is amazing, right? And she's like, this is amazing. So I I was like, Lonnie, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And you have to do the rest of my covers. And can you please do the rest of my covers for the series? Because if I release this, I have to release the next two. And then she went and painted the back of the cover too, which is like also just stunning. And yeah, and she's just like a very lovely person. Genuine, and like the talent is limitless. If you've like stalked her website, phenomenal. So I feel incredibly lucky to have just reached out and have connected with her. And I feel like there are so many people that have picked up the book just based on the cover. So that was the other thing. Like when I saw the cover, I was like, oh shit, this book has to be really good now, because
People are going to read it.
I don't want people to be disappointed when they're like, gorgeous cover, shitty book. So that was, I think it was a lot of like, for me, I was really motivated after seeing my cover too. I got like a better visual of who the characters were. The same thing with the second, and then with the third, I was just like, oh man, like it's like it felt really good to connect with a creative in that way. And yeah, I will forever be grateful to her for saying yes and for coming into my life at the Bourbon Boys series, because I think for me, she breathed new life into what my characters were. It was she gave me like a little oomph, halfway through writing and all of that. Forever grateful for that.
She's just unbelievable. My childhood best friend's big fan of yours, by the way. And when I say this on the podcast, she's going to scream. But we were talking the other day because she just finished Bourbon and Secrets. She like went on a Victoria Water journey, which as she should. And she was like, only a woman could draw a man like that.
Oh, I know.
Like literally, like only a woman would create a man that handsome. And I'm like, and isn't it the truth?
It's so true. And they're so hot. Sometimes I'm like, which one is better looking? Is it the man is it the girl or the guy? Because like they're both stunning. Like in each story or each book cover, they're beautiful. And I'm like, oh man, they're just stunning. And now she's like, every time I see something new from her, like a new cover, I'm just like, oh my god, it's so beautiful.
I have a shelf of just her stuff. Like it's just so good. This is kind of a random side quest, but your characters are older than some of our standard romance characters. Can you speak on that at all? I know you started writing not older, but like,
totally older. It's
not
fine.
In your 20s. So is that your inspiration for that? I love reading more mature characters.
Yeah, I think there's just, I don't want to say there's a lack of them, but like I think more consistently characters are in their 20s, right? And not that like there's a significant difference between a character being 27 to 31, but sometimes there is, I don't know. I think it just feels better to me. Like I feel like I can connect to them better. And I also feel like am I ever going to write a character in her 20s? Yeah, sure, probably. Because man, oh man, do I love really good, like taboo age gap. Like not at a gross level, but, I think there's something really, great about reading about a woman who's like in her 30s that hasn't figured it all out yet, and I just think, God, I mean, I'm in my 40s and I feel like I haven't figured it all out yet. So like I feel like I think it's like the classic. I think it was definitely in Clueless, where Cher says, I can't believe I'm quoting Clueless. She says like they peaked in high school, and like that forever sticks with me. I'm like, I don't ever really want to peak. Like I would love to just be on the climb. So I kind of keep that in mind with my female main characters and just hope that they just haven't peaked yet. Like they're out there. This is their journey of peaking a romance. So
I love it so much. And to the listeners, if you want a really great age gap from Victoria, the sneak peek is unreal.
oh yes, yeah. Michael is
So
delightful.
good.
Yeah.
Like, so good. I feel like out of all of them, that's the one I don't talk about enough. Like, oh, so, so good. So I feel like the shift between the Riggs and the Bourbon Boys maybe marked a shift in your career in a sense. If you could have coffee with the version of yourself that was going and transitioning from the Riggs to the Bourbon Boys, what would you tell her? Any advice, any words of hope, affirmation for her?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably the same conversation I would have the beginning of each book, which is just like you can write, believe in what you can do. And that transition from the Riggs to Bourbon Boys, I just put a lot of pressure on myself to do something different, but that felt really good. And I think whatever advice I gave myself at the time to just keep going, it worked. And I think there will always be nerves starting a new series, right? Because at some point there's going to be a book that just isn't your best work. I would like to believe that each book is better than the last. And if I can in some way make sure that happens, maybe from a reader's perspective, that's not the case, right? Because you have a favorite or whatever. But from my perspective, if the next book is better than the last, then I'm doing something right. So I think what I would say to myself is stop looking around. Stop looking around, focus on what you want to do, write the story that you want to write with all of the things that you know, right? Like things you know about trends, things you know about tropes, what you know about your reader. Keep that in mind, but don't look around.
Yes, the grass is greener where you water it.
It totally is. And also, it's wildly different to look at somebody's career who has been doing this for 10 years more than you have and think, of course, you're going to be in different places,
Yes.
So
Comparison's the thief of joy, and comparing your mile 4 to someone's mile 8 is not helpful.
Oh, totally true. I can't run a mile anyway, so might as well just enjoy the ride.
Ain't it the truth? Oh my gosh. So true. Okay, so as we're coming up on the end here, how are you feeling? What are the feelings wrapping up Bourbon Boys? We talked a little bit before the episode started if you just haven't quite let it hit you yet. And then can you speak at all about what's next?
Yes. So Bourbon Boys, I don't know. I think this series is going to just be like a little piece of my heart, and I think it's just beginning, I think it's the end of the series, but I think for a lot of readers, maybe they're just discovering who they are in this world. So that makes me happy and hopeful. I haven't written the final extended epilogue yet. I think I've been putting it off. I'm just not ready to I don't know, feel all those things. I definitely cried my face off when I was writing the epilogue for this, but I think it was just you. I think that was inevitable. But yeah, I'm excited. I think I am, instead of nerves this time, I mean, there will always be nerves. I mean, I'm pretty human and definitely an author. But there will always be nerves going into a new series, but I'm actually really excited. And I've had fun playing with Bourbon. I've had fun learning about how alcohol is made and the subcultures that exist around it, and an entire world of women that exist within whiskey. So my next series will be about women in whiskey. It's, instead of the Bourbon Boys, you get whiskey women, and it'll be based in Tennessee.
You're coming to me.
Coming to you. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Come stay anytime. Come visit.
Exactly. And you have already met the male main character for the first book. You met him in book 3. And hopefully he's as delicious as I tried to describe him.
If it's who I think it is, yes.
Yeah, but he is a jeweler by day and a crime scene cleaner by night.
And he's hot.
And
he's so
very
hot.
Yeah. So I do not have a shareable title yet, but yeah, it'll be a Women in Whiskey series, and it'll be based in Tennessee because Tennessee whiskey.
Oh, I'm over the moon excited. Oh my gosh. I prepare to be sick of me if you're not already.
No, I mean, do you want to know what's so brilliant is that so I was in a lot of different places about what I was going to do, where I was going to go next. I went out to Montana to do a little research and, also to like hang out with my amazing cover designer for a little while. But I was like, okay, like I think Montana eventually, but I don't think yet. Like I'm not ready to lean into true Montana. But I do really like in my mind, in the back of my mind, I always had like this women in whiskey thought process. And as I was doing research for Bourbon Boys, like there are women in bourbon, like so many women. There are so many women that drink bourbon, drink whiskey. It is not it is a, like everything else, right? It feels so heavy male dominated, but like the women that participate are probably like the biggest movers and shakers. And it just felt like inevitable that I need to explore that more. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm over the moon excited as a Tennessee whiskey girl.
Yes. Yes. And there is a different way that Tennessee makes their whiskey than other places. There's like, so there's some cool learnings and stuff like that to go along with the stories that are coming. But yeah, I'll be staying in romantic suspense because I really love playing in this sandbox.
Thank God.
Oh yeah, romantic suspense all the way. And the things that you can expect from me: spicy, really good tension, hopefully, authentic and
strong women, swoony men.
Totally. That's the game plan.
Everything we love. Okay. Yeah. Well, I love it. As you have a captive audience of Victoria Wilder lovers, because that is what we create here at Book Club, is there anything you want to share with Book Club, with the people?
Oh, gosh. No. I mean, so is there anything new to share other than what I've already word vomited on this podcast? Probably not. But I will say one thing, and one thing that I like, if people ever make it to the end of the acknowledgments, like one of the biggest things that I am very thankful for is the reader community. I would not have published if you didn't exist. And, the idea that readers are so passionate about stories that they love that they will have conversations with you about characters, and that other readers will recommend your story to their friends, even their friends that are not online, right? I would not have a career without that. And I think that will never be lost on me, so for as many stories as hopefully I can put out through my lifetime, in real truth, it only happens because of the community that you guys have built. And there's a part of me that will never be able to thank you enough for it. So, to anybody who has been a part of it, thank you.
Yes.
Truly.
Well, thank you for writing it and for giving us something to talk about and immerse in and see ourselves in. It's a privilege to read, truly. Like, you are a gift.
No.
But I think that'll wrap us up.
Yay.
Thank you for attending Book Club and for spending your time with me.
Anytime you want me to come spend time with you, count me in.
Oh, and you can count on that. All right. Well, I will see you in the next one.